Simpler version of this, again, this is just a simple leaf separator. This is a manual valve that basically the first 20 minutes, you'll let the water just rain, and then when you think about it, you go out there and you divert it, and then you start filling your tank. This is probably the simplest applications. Increasing, this is something called gutter glove. Gutter glove, it's a very nice system, basically extruded aluminum, has a stainless steel screen that basically does a very nice job of keeping pine needles and things like that out of your water supply. It filters to about 20 micron. Does a very nice job of pre-filtering and keeping stuff out of your tank. This is the WISI system that we're talking about. It has basically the lightweight version. Just fits in line with your downspout. What it happens is that and well, let's just show you. The water comes in the side of this thing, and the interesting thing is there's kind of a wire mesh screen. And while it's dry, everything just kind of goes right on through. And then when it gets wet after a while, the centrifugal action, it kind of wicks out through this screen, and then you have the water then flowing to your tank. This is about 90% efficient. It does a very nice job. It's very pricey, but it's probably about the best I've seen on the market. This is kind of a close-up of the water catchment thing. This being the screen, they have different grades according to whether you're coming out of a lake or a pond environment for, say, a greenhouse, and we have pictures of that later to show, or whether it's coming out of your storage tank for use in your home. Different types of tanks. We have concrete in the Virgin Islands where you're built on the side of a hill. You'll find that the tanks there are concrete, whatever sort of the sub-foundation that's used to kind of adjust the home to the grade. Underneath is typically the cistern of the tank. Plastic, the key thing there is it needs to be opaque to keep the sun from getting into the water, helping to grow algae. Also, too, plastic, you want to make sure you have virgin plastic tanks. You don't want to work with recycled plastic because you really don't know what that prior plastic was used for. If it was insecticide or a paint thinner or something like that, you really don't want that as far as your water supply goes. They come in all shapes and sizes. We have wood here. We have metal tanks. The ARCSA people had a convention in Hawaii where the entire compound, there was a hotel resort complex, was driven by Rainwater Catchment and had a lot of tanks just like that. These are actually, they're wood tanks, just like anything, like a boat. As long as they're wet, the wood expands and they do a good job of sealing. You just need to keep them wet to make them work right. A lot of, they're pretty much, the ones you see right now are probably going to be older because they're very expensive to use right now. These are other examples of tanks. Some of them are the same construction that you see for grain bins in agriculture. The difference being that these will have a rubber membrane inside the tanks. The ones on the upper right, this is something that you can see, architectural quality tanks. Water outside, this is for a product made in Australia. Some people worry about water quality. I think you can see this guy with the trees growing in his gutters and worms and things like that probably isn't worried too much about water quality. These people are. They've done in Australia have done a lot of study about what goes on inside water tanks. As I mentioned earlier, the rainwater itself is pretty benign. It's what, when you start storing it, is all of a sudden where the problems will initiate. Rainwater tanks harbor a wide variety of microbial species. That much is pretty clear. Species composition may vary considerably between tanks at different locations. And that's pretty self-evident too. Species composition varies temporarily at any given site, depending on which way the wind's blowing, which direction is your source of contamination coming from. You have minimal evidence of fecal contamination. Hot water systems deliver water at quality suitable for bathing. If you run it through and get it up to 130 degrees, that's going to take care of any kind of microbial action and Legionella and things of that nature. And biofilms have the capability to chemically remediate water, and that came as the biggest surprise to me, is that scum that builds up inside your tank is actually a good thing. This is a sample taken from two different sources, one Newcastle in Australia and the other called Gulgong. One being an agriculture area, one being a city area. So you can see the different type of bacteria growing at different locations. Interesting thing, I think the thing of it is that the people that live in this community are probably used to those bacteria, and it's not bothered. There's an interesting little bit of history that I used to work at Indiana University Bloomington back about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. They got a case of Legionella during some people that came to the town of Bloomington. And that went on for about 2 years. But the interesting thing about that was there was no one in Bloomington area that came down with it. It was all kind of, there were visitors, which speaks to, back in biblical times, in Proverbs 15 verse 5, it says, "Thou shalt drink out of your own cistern." So maybe even back then they had health inspectors that knew that people would get accustomed to certain things, and it's okay. And that's the same sort of logic that when you and I go to out of the country and drink the water, we come down with it because we're just not used to that kind of bacteria. So, and this is a typical situation pretty much throughout the world. We've seen situations in Hawaii where they have high-end homes where they are basically used to drinking the water that's there and without any problems. This depends on, again, which way the wind's blowing. HPC is sort of a conglomeration of bacteria, just sort of a roundhouse average of a lot of different bacteria that accumulate. And again, which way the wind blows, you know, if you're coming down, if they're going to be spraying the crops next door, you'll probably want to divert the rain that day rather than putting it in your tank. Again, the bioremediation, again, you get your film built up. You get the chemical remediation. The interesting thing about that, and the competitive exclusion of pathogens. Typically, there's no pathogens in rainwater, and non-pathogenic stuff tends to be, as we mentioned, stuff that's kind of germane to the issue that it's located in. The interesting thing is that due to that biofilm, that the water coming out often is cleaner than going in, and that's the most fascinating thing to me. In two situations there, again, it's cleaner going out than going in. This is a situation where even the biofilm will absorb some lead content, maybe from some solder joints, things of that nature. The control at the top, the pink line, is basically a very well-maintained tank of Cloroxed, clean, this sort of thing, whereas the one down below, the blue line, is the one that is basically allowed to just perform the natural biofilm. So the biofilm actually is a good thing and not necessarily to be discounted. So just to kind of summarize where we're at, everything we've talked about right now is probably will get you by for a non-potable agriculture situation. We talked about the filtering the screen out there, the preliminary filter that basically will take the sediment, the leaves, the debris, the fecal material off the roof, and it goes into our tank. This area right here is what we're going to talk about next. If you want to go potable water for your house, or what do you do?